Shalom and welcome to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heart lines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, Messianic Rabbi Eric Walker. Our next guests are featured here every month on the third Thursday of every month at 11 o'clock a.m. Central Time. Dr. Michelle Sherwood is a trained doctor of osteopathy, and Dr. Mark Sherwood is a trained naturopathic doctor. Mark and Michelle use an integrated approach that focuses on prevention and lifelong wellness. The Sherwoods have a thriving medical practice, the Functional Medical Institute, and are recognized experts in health and wellness. In their 18 years of practice, they've helped almost 8,000 patients worldwide with an annual reach of over 1.3 million. Together, they've authored 3 books: Fork Your Diet, Master the 4 Fundamentals of Good Health, Surviving the Garden of Eden, Surprising Biblical Insights to Enjoy Optimal Wellness, and The Quest for Wellness, a practical and personal wellness plan for optimum health in your body, mind, emotions, and spirit. You can find out more at their website at fmidr.com. Here to talk about wellness in the face of COVID-19 pandemic is Dr. Mark Sherwood. Mark, great to see you, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, Rabbi. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, we're delighted to have you as a featured guest here on the program. Your 3 books are a breath of fresh air in a world that's filled with a lot of junk. There's a couple of people in the naturopath world that I've known over the years. Dr. Seneca Anderson, you may know Seneca very well, out of Atlanta. Almost everybody in the naturopath world knows Seneca. Has pioneered a lot of new approaches, and married to a wonderful Jewish believer whose brother is a rabbi in Israel.
Wow.
Rabbi Eitan Shishkoff is Seneca's brother-in-law. So very connected with the Jewish believing community in Israel, and speaks into their lives quite often. So we are strong proponents for the biblical soundness of body, mind, and spirit working in perfect harmony as God had designed it. That there's this thing called echad in the Bible in the Hebrew, which is a compound unity. It's a singular, but it's multifaceted, and it all works together like a bunch of grapes. It's one bunch, many parts, or a family, one family, many parts. So we look at the compound unity of God. We also look at us being created in that image, and we are supposed to have harmony with body, soul, and spirit, looking at the flesh from a wellness standpoint, and making sure that we're doing the things to nurture the body and feed the soul while we're still maintaining a spiritual balance in the Word of God, which is the foundation of your practice.
It is, and it's fascinating when you think about the image of God. I mean, that's just a wow moment for all of us. But our body is made up of these between 20 and 50 trillion cells, and all the cells sort of have their own life, if you will, and they work in a symbiotic relationship. And these cells, the fascinating thing about all of this is the cells are controlled not so much by the DNA, but by the receptor proteins on the cell membrane that are monitoring our environment, right? So the environment with which we live truly directs the genetic response, therefore the expression of the genes, therefore our potential either disease resilience or disease likelihood.
You know, it's interesting that this virus has brought out a lot of awareness about immunity. Why does one person get it and they're asymptomatic? Why does another person get it and they wind up on a ventilator and die? What are the factors involved? And in the face of this virus, applying the concepts that you and Dr. Michelle have put together about wellness, about diet, about exercise, about mental health, what should we be focusing on in the large scheme? Because you can either feel isolated or you can feel set apart. You can feel like this is a hiatus from life as usual and create a new plan for your life for wellness and health. What greater opportunity, in my own example, I bought a tiny treadmill. I've never been a fan. I've joined probably 10 gyms in my life and gone to them once, and I don't like them. I just don't like them. So you have that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to press through it, and never was able to press through it. And I don't live in a large home, and so I found this small little fold-up treadmill, and I'm able to do 5 miles on this treadmill while I'm either listening to the Bible or I'm actually watching a documentary or a movie, something that keeps me active. And I've gone from a primarily sedentary lifestyle to going from the one end of the spectrum, sedentary, and having a BMI of 28, to being active and having a BMI of 23. So this body mass index of one of the many barometers that we have, but for somebody 68 years old to have blood pressure of 110 over 70, heart rate of 78, at rest, and getting able to get that cardiovascular. In 6 months' time, I've gone from one end of the spectrum to the other, and actually have used this time to change my diet, to change my eating habits, and to change my regimen, and saying this was a good thing to set me down, to stand me up.
I agree. This time is, without question, as I was praying through this is nothing more than an exposure of our vulnerabilities in the area of our physical, emotional, and even spiritual. And we must get stronger. And to answer your question, I will start with the difference of why some are asymptomatic, some are symptomatic, and some end up losing their life, the fatality rate. So we have to talk about everybody is familiar today with these comorbid conditions, or these sort of co-infections or co-scenarios that are contributing to the inability, or in some cases lowered ability, of our body to do what it's supposed to do. So the body's normal function from an immune standpoint is to be able to, we're passed on this passive or innate immunity from our parents, right? And then we get the adaptive immunity based upon our exposure. And that's why vaccines, that's the reason they work the way they do. But when the body is confronted with something that's new, it has to either do one of two things. It has to figure out a way to fight it or kill it, or adapt a way to deal with it. And this is where the challenge is coming in today. When a system is already grossly inflamed, and we know inflammation from a chronic systemic standpoint is a part and parcel of every disease process we know today. When a system is already inflamed and already has this either overactive immune system or overworked immune system, the ability to adapt becomes more dysfunctional. And so what that means is as you look at the comorbidities of those that have lost their lives, the fatalities, you're seeing a commonality with the following. You're seeing obesity, you're seeing coronary artery disease or cardiovascular disease, you're seeing autoimmune conditions, you're seeing quite likely the residual effects of chemotherapy and more immune suppressive drugs. You're seeing these pulmonary issues. They're smokers, people that have type 2 diabetes and things like that. These systems have been worked and morphed into ineffective systems to defend self. So our ability to defend self has been severely compromised. This virus and other viruses will indeed come again. No question about it. So we must be prepared. And as you stated correctly, and I appreciate this so much, if we would just focus and take this time as a gift, then it could be one of the greatest revolutions and perhaps revelation that we as believers have had. And whether we're a believer or not, here's the bottom line. We are in a tragic situation now where fear is perpetuating this, and fear itself will certainly degrade the immune system's ability to adapt. When you're under fear, under stress, or talking about living it, Rabbi Eric, it's fascinating that our body will go towards self-preservation because we're being, in a sense, analogous with being chased by a lion, right? And it will always go to the survival, and it will take its focus and energy away from our immune system. So the more we listen to and speak fear, that very thing, we're degrading it on top of these comorbid conditions. And so our whole system of approach right now, and I'll make a strong statement, but it's I believe it's true. Our system, it is sorely inadequate. We are covering just one little side partial of one coin, and we need to flip it around and see the other side. No one is talking about what we can do, what we did, how we can correct it, what we can learn. We're just looking for that silver bullet. And there is no silver bullet for health. It is diligence, discipline, hard work, just like you've done. You figured out a way to make it part of life, and that is, without question, God's intent.
There's so many who have taken an attitude of complaining or getting caught up in the news, conspiracy, government overreach, this negativity. There's also people who are facing real financial impact on this that causes that worry mechanism, that fear factor to kick in. I think back to my corporate life, where it was the 7-bedroom house, and it was the mini car garage, and there was the big mortgage, and there were the big car payments, and there was debt upon debt upon debt. And finally I realized that that was not what God desired, and I completely downsized, got shed of all of that, made sure that I was in a home that I could pay off in just a few years, and was going to be debt free by the time I hit a certain age, and I accomplished that. That gives me a sense of well-being, that I don't have to worry in the face of this COVID-19, and I can freely serve in the ministry, which is not what you would consider to be a high-paying job. But there's many people struggling with this, and one of the things that I think is a misconception is that in order to achieve wellness in the area of nutrition, that you have to buy the most expensive, organic, signed, sealed, I agree. I don't want antibiotics. I don't want pesticides. I don't want, it's interesting that it says organic grass-fed. Well, if I've fed the grass, but I put pesticides to keep weeds from growing, so I have more grass, what benefit is there to it being a grass-fed animal if I've treated the field with chemicals. So there's a lot to this that I think is shrouded in a great deal of confusion. Why is organic, this category that's should say organic equals 35% more than the regular brand?
Yeah.
Do you have to live on a bigger budget to live a healthy lifestyle?
Well, the answer to that is unequivocally no, with an exclamation point. And here's why. That there's a lot of let's call it one of the great American myths, that you have to spend more money on organic food. There's a lot of studies that I could cite, but one in particular that's coming to my mind is they did a study comparatively of buying fast food, and they used one of our well-known fast food restaurants that I'll remain nameless, but they were spending roughly it was $128 or something like that per week, right, on this perpetual garbage. And they found that it was $131 per week when they bought organic fruits and vegetables. So it's not that much difference per capita. But here's the thing to keep in mind. Let's just break this down to the foundational standpoint. If God made something, if it's in the same packaging, stay on the perimeters of the market. Don't go inside it. Don't buy anything in a box. Don't believe. Now, I want people to hear this. Don't believe what many nutritionists and dietary experts are telling you today if they're telling you to buy things that contain processed, sugar-laden, high-grain bred foods. That's just a flat-out lie. If we would only eat just the perimeters, just the consumables there, we would be better off. So organic or not, our systems are amazing in the ability to correct. So if someone doesn't have, a lot of extra funds, that's okay. Start with eating fruits and vegetables. Start with picking good sources of protein that's alive. Don't go in the center and buy boxed food, because you're going to find yourself in a quandary. You will eat the boxed food. It has no nutrition, and it has anti-nutrition, and it's going to drive hunger. You'll be hungry, you'll eat more, and when you go towards the perimeters, you will eat less because it actually is nutrient dense. Now, with that said, who knows today how many nutrients are in one sort of pound of broccoli? It would depend, and it's going to be different depending on the soil and all that. But the bottom line is we just need to get away from processed, gravitate towards real, gravitate towards things that have less than 5 ingredients, that are not in a box. And with that said, anybody can do that. If we just do that, we as a population will grow and build more immune resilience.
I went to actually he was not a congregant, but a class attendee, and went to Israel with me, and he specializes in weight management. And we talked about carbohydrates. And his position is that if you examine the nutrition of vegetables, you'll find that you can get your carbohydrate requirements daily met through vegetables. And you don't have to have the breads, you don't have to have the grains. And so I began to remove the grains, and at my age I found there's a direct connection between grains and arthritis. Many grains are inflammatory to the aging body's chemistry. I'm 68. That's not very old, but that's not very young.
Easy
Uh,
now.
and I have a 93-year-old mother who plays golf twice a week, who goes out dancing. So we kind of eat similarly, but not a lot of grains in our diet. And find that helps with weight management. It helps with, you still have the energy, but you're actually burning what God wants you to burn, and that's that fat that surrounds the organs. And I think that people don't really understand the difference between the two types of fat that the body accumulates. Some is not as detrimental as other. Not saying that any of it is healthy. There is a healthy balance. You can't survive without it for very long because that is a storehouse. But we're not nomadic. We're not desert dwellers. We're not living without access to. We're not in a famine. So as a society, we've gotten much, much larger. And I think this COVID response is, if you remember, that there was a shortage of toilet paper and bread were the things that so people are bulking up because they're not getting out.
Yeah, and I think a couple of statistical things we need to pay attention to is back in the 70s with the initiation of the food pyramid. At that point in time, that was when America primarily was educated on this directive to have 6 to 11 servings of breads and grains per day, and fat became bad and sugar became something you didn't talk about, and then you had all this fat-free food that came about. At that time in history, there was one state out of our 50 that had an obesity rate greater than 10%. 11 years later, after the initiation of that food pyramid, every single state in the nation except one went above 10%. And today, we have multiple states, above 50%. It is predicted by some models, we'll use that term, it's pretty popular these days, that by 2030, the entire population of the U.S. will be either overweight or obese. And there is no question the obesogenic American lifestyle that's been created because of some of those things that you talked about. We have become a world leader of the exportation of the largest, most rapid growth of non-communicable disease. That's called obesity. And we really got to get a hold of that, because this is something that has catastrophically destroyed our population, increased sick span, and now beginning to decrease lifespan, and probably, moreover, decreased our overall quality of life. And now we become dependent on these things that you mentioned, and I can go into it if you want, a little bit of the chemistry of the genetic modification results of the grains, that what it's done for our body. And this is fascinating, because when these grains, and keep in mind they've only been modified maybe 5%, so that's the argument. Well, it's only 5%. They've been modified to avoid some of these, the pesticides and herbicides and things like that, of course, to create a higher and more profitable yield, which is profit-driven. That's red flag number one. But when these things, these ingredients, notwithstanding the blood sugar elevation that is, but when they're degraded in the GI system, they create what's called exorphins, EXORPHINS. Now, that sounds like a little bit like morphine. Well, it is, because these exorphins that are created within the digestive tract, they will travel to the brain and they will hit on the opioid receptors. Just like the opioid addiction, we've talked about this opioid problem, they hit on the same receptors, bringing a peace, a calm, and even somewhat of a pain relief. And it's temporary, it's deceiving, because over time, as you correctly pointed out, they are inflammatory, they are foreign, and our body's doing everything it can to push those things out. But when it gets overwhelmed, many times we will feel the experience of that with brain fog, joint pain, fatigue, digestive distress, all the way up to even cancers, autoimmunity, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, dementia, and certainly obesity. So this is a catalyst if you want one thing to avoid all grains, breads, and these sugar concoctions, and 100% certainty we don't need them. Life as we know it will improve.
The approach that some people take, it's all or nothing. We seem to be extremists when it comes to certain things, kind of a religious spirit, if you will, not allowing ourselves any small indulgences, or I think that Scripture tells us that a false balance is an abomination to God, using a different sets of weights and measures for different people. You know, that was in the contextual, literal application of that, was not to show favor for one group of family or friends over another group. But as we look at it as a general statement, it's true that if our life is out of balance, if we're too much this or too much that, that we find ourselves manifesting certain problems, certain symptoms, if you will. That it's amazing to me how many people are on medication. How many prescriptions? Neither my mother or I take any prescription medications. When I had a triglyceride issue, the doctor said, well, I'm going to put you on this medication. I said, no, I'm not going to take your medication. What do I need to do in order to change this? I don't want it pharmaceutically changed. I want to have control over this. Is this controllable? And he said, well, yeah, it's diet and exercise. That's going to reverse and take that number back down. And so that's what I did. I said, I'm not going to take your medication. First of all, you've killed several of my friends, so that's not going to work for me. But we established a good baseline, which I think is important from a wellness perspective, that you have baseline information. But as a general statement, and not that I want you to just pull a rabbit out of your hat, but how many of the conditions that people are being medically and pharmaceutically treated for, in your opinion, percentage-wise, are preventable or treatable through a change in diet, exercise, and the spiritual component that adds the strength, the faith, and the balance of understanding of what the Master's plan is for our lives?
I would estimate not, and it would be conservative estimated, that it would be about 90%. And it's high. And here's why. I'll give you a couple statistical things to understand. Number one, to your point about medication, 128,000 people are dead every year from properly prescribed, properly taken medication. That's an abomination. Secondly, America, in its glory, leads the world in hospitalizations for preventable diseases. Not my statistics, someone else's. When you look at genetics, as hard as we study genetics and try to blame things on genes, of all the genes that we've tied to individual disease process from a confirmatory standpoint, that's less than 5% of all illnesses in the world. That tells you at least 95% are multifactorial. This is where lifestyle comes in. And as stated earlier, with the common element, the common denominator in all these disease processes that we so dread and we so see rising across our country. Chronic systemic inflammation is the culprit. If we can relieve the body of that, and which we can do that 100% of the time with diet and lifestyle, stress management, spiritual management, getting out of wellness debt. And I think that's a key point. Then we will see the chronic systemic inflammation go down, therefore disease prevalence go down, our immune system build, and a lot of these things that are costing us so much money, so much time, so much effort, and so much conversation will miraculously go away. And frankly, that is absolutely God's intent. And to your point about being balanced, we've got to get away from using our own will. Clearly, we don't live a life that says, I'm going to compromise every time I want to, right? I deserve to compromise. I deserve to cheat. That's kind of silly. Take that out of it. That takes self out of it. If we're living in that manner, it's all about self. Jesus himself showed us clearly that by his life, that if he trusted in Holy Spirit to guide him, we don't have to plan on falling down. We don't have to plan on falling for temptations. We don't have to plan on lacking discipline, because that's the very character of God that lives in us. So if we just relax, take pressure off self, give it over, then I would submit, based on experience here, that people get better because it's inherently God working in them to strengthen them and guide them. And it's part of his nature is to bring about wellness and healing.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. We've been talking with Dr. Mark Sherwood, who, along with his wife, Dr. Michelle Neal Sherwood, authors of Surviving the Garden of Eden, Fork Your Diet, and The Quest for Wellness, talking about overall wellness, but wellness in the face of COVID-19 and some lifestyle changes that in this period of isolation, quarantine, separation, we can actually apply and use as an opportunity to make changes that will positively affect us in the long term, as opposed to looking at this as punitive or as a consequence of a government mandate, and find a positive way to use this time to affect healthy changes in your life. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue in this discussion with Dr. Mark Sherwood. We'll be right back. The Lord meets you right where you are, and so does Igniting a Nation's new live streaming outlets. You can now watch Revealing the Truth, Revealing the Bible, and Prophecy Revealed simulcast live each Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Vimeo, Periscope, and through our website, www.ignitinganation.com. No matter what device you are using, our program will automatically scale so you won't have to miss a single program. And if you happen to miss an episode, you can always subscribe to the Igniting a Nation YouTube channel and access over 1,000 interviews and never miss your favorite authors, special guests, and topics that interest you the most.
There are lots of ways to see Israel, but nothing compares to seeing the land of the book and the people of the book through the eyes of two Jewish believers who can take you on a journey that will bring the entire Bible to life. When you join Rabbi Eric Walker and his #1 rated tour guide, Edo Canaan, in Israel, you'll experience incredible teachings, first-class accommodations, and actually walk where Jesus walked. You will experience the Bible transforming from black and white into living color, and you will never see the Bible in the same way again. For more information, visit us at www.ignitinganation.com/events.
The Lord contends with what contends with you, and Igniting a Nation is committed to bringing to light each and every issue that faces a believer's life. Our live stream programming and teachings take you on a journey to finding biblical truth, from a wide variety of experts who share their insights into a deeper walk with the Lord. We have assembled the most comprehensive panel of experts in the fields of prophecy, caregiving, healing from trauma, shame, and abuse, and so much more. We continue to expand our teachings and programming to meet your needs. We're committed to healing the nations with biblical truth. Visit www.ignitinganation.com to develop a deeper walk with the Lord and start your journey to a transformed life. The Bible commands us to study to show ourselves approved, but most study using Bible study tools and not actually studying the Bible chapter and verse. Igniting a Nation is pleased to present Revealing the Bible, recorded and taught each week before a live audience. We take you deeper into the actual Bible and verse in both Hebrew and English and connect the dots between the Old and New Testament. You can attend our 2 classes in Tuscaloosa and Birmingham or watch the program every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time on ignitinganation.com and all our other simulcast outlets. For more information, visit www.ignitinganation.com/events. Shalom and welcome back to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, Messianic Rabbi Eric Walker, and we're talking with Dr. Mark Sherwood, who along with his wife, Dr. Michelle Sherwood, are authors of 3 amazing books, Fork Your Diet, Surviving the Garden of Eden, and The Quest for Wellness. Dr. Mark, welcome back to the program.
Thank you so much. I've thoroughly enjoyed our time so far.
Well, so have I. People are at home. We know that the streaming services are thriving. People are binge watching television programs. That puts them on the couch in a sedentary position. They have a tendency to reach for something to satisfy doing something with your hands, something with your mouth. They go together. It's a connection that people have with eating and watching. I know very few people that don't do that. Have some beverage or something. They may be prone to alcohol. I'm not a drinker, so not anything in my life. Actually have found that I know that I should like water more than I do, but I found the zero protein drinks, not the zero electrolytes, no sugar added, so it's and no artificial added. It's just 0 calorie, gives me that water plus the electrolytes, which are also good because I do that workout. But how should we be spending our time? What habits do we need to make, and what do they say, that it takes 21 days 21 days to affect change, or to make something what we would call a habit in the positive sense, appropriate behavior. So we've been longer than 21 days. So people are either undoing all the good that they did, or they are embracing this, or they're somewhere in between. What are you finding?
Well, I think it's the same. We're finding that people either are embracing hope, or they're falling into hopelessness. And the thing about habits, yes, indeed, psychologists have stated that 21 days are required in succession to form new habits. However, when we talk about lifestyle, what we have seen, it's more like 90 days, because we have to eat to survive, we have to drink to survive. These are requirements, these are essential for us. The electrolytes, the vitamins, the minerals, the amino acids, the fatty acids. If we don't get those in, we will die. Here's a couple of things that people need to keep in mind. Number one, and you did it, you're doing it right now, and I have the same thing. You must keep water, which our body is 65% water. We need it to survive. Without it, we will die. We got to keep it visible and available. Two words, visible and available at all times. So you will, when you're at home, you want to fill up a water glass, have a few sips before bed. But when you get up in the morning, that water glass, you just get it down, drink it now, become hydrated early on, because if you don't, many of us would have a cup of coffee, which can be a little bit of a diuretic, and we can begin to have a drain in our system, losing those electrolytes, those minerals very quickly. Instead of being hydrated at that point, we're actually working from a point of dehydration. When you talk about water too, I love the concept, Rabbi Eric, about the mineral water. That's excellent. We can also look at sort of some of this like a Perrier or something like that, has a little bit of gas in it. That brings a little bit of flavor into it. I've had many people that have been on sodas, and they move to that kind of stuff, and that's the transition out of it. So make sure you have a plan and make sure that stuff is visible and available. So if you'll buy that and do it, you will drink it, because now we have idle time. Let's let the idle time become productive. As far as food goes, certainly I get that. A lot of people are just simply bored. They're just wanting to have something to put in their mouth. Okay, great. Let's invest in and prioritize what that can be. Let's get a bowl of cut up fruit, like a fruit tray. Those are cheap, easy. Have them handy. Put them out in the view. Again, visibility and availability is the key. If we'll have that stuff visible, we'll have it, and it's okay to eat that. At the same time, don't feel like or be bound to this concept that you have to eat, because there's many, many benefits in the fasting concept. Specifically with viruses, the old saying is, feed a cold, starve a virus. So therefore, there's a lot of benefit to the body being able to fight when it's not in a fed mode. So we talked about the food aspect, the drink, but activity. And this is an easy rule, right? You're sitting there on a laptop, as am I. But I will remember this, and I've told people to do this. If you'll put a sticky note, like maybe a blue sticky note or something near your computer, with the number 20 and the number 2. And all that means is for every 20 minutes you sit, stand up for 2 minutes. Stand up. You can always send an email. You can always watch your favorite, binge movie or whatever while you're standing up. When you stood up, if you'll maintain that process through an 8 or 10 hour process, how many squats have you done? I mean, that's amazing. And the interesting thing about this, along the lines of getting fat off our system, when we stand up, we activate, though short, though temporary, the activity of the enzyme lipase, Lipase, excuse me, which breaks down fat tissue. It prepares our body to move. In other words, it tricks the body to say, hey, it's time for you to move. You are moving, so I'm going to grab my most robust fuel source, which is fat. And so if we just do those things, we can benefit. And the other aspect, I would think, is what we put in our ears and eyes. Because if we're paying attention to what's coming into our body, into our mind, into our perceptions, that can feed our spirit or it can starve our spirit. And we got to fill ourselves up with things. Don't allow the fear-based messaging to become the most consumable thing in your life. And the last part of this is sleep. Take the rest and enjoy it. Everybody, and I mean this, again, I want to caution this is not classified as a cure or treatment, but everybody above 40 years old needs to be on melatonin. Facts. 3 milligrams and up, because we lose melatonin production as we age because of the pineal gland degradation. And if we lose our ability to rest and we shrink in our sleep time, our ability to fight disease processes goes down. And I think that's important. So we need our 7.5, 8 hours of sleep at night, regardless of our age, regardless of what we think. Our bodies still need this. And one thing I will add as an add-on to all this process is we got to get outside. This social distancing thing, fine, but it didn't say you can't get outside. I mean, for God's sake, get outside and get some sunshine. There is healing in the sun at both SUN and probably SON. We need to allow our bodies to get heated up. And again, from a viral standpoint, what tends to go away as the heat comes into our world? The viral load, right? So it's very important to do all these things. And none of that costs money. That's the fascinating thing. It was all free, just a couple of little lifestyle things. And Rabbi Eric, if we would just do those basic things as a purpose, right? And if we have to make a little list, listen to this whole podcast again, make the list, put it out, make it visible and available, and do those things. I'll talk about that in the Quest for Wellness, that first bestseller. Physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual. Find something to do every day to bring benefit in those areas. Be intentional. Read a book. Do something you've never done before. This is the potentially greatest opportunity that our listeners right now have had. This is a history-changing moment. We are in a place now where we can truly reflect, bring about change, start new habits, and do it for 90 days or more. When we do that, that brings permanence in our life. And the wonderful thing about that is all those things that I talked about, that's all God's will. So God's will, He will power us up. Thereby, His willpower can be the driving force behind these adjustments.
It's very interesting. We're such a technology-driven society today that my watch actually tells me when to stand up.
Yeah.
There's a stand-up reminder in there. There's also a health app that is built into my iPhone that comes with it, which tracks my steps. It tracks my standing time, my movement time, and my total burn. Right, and you set a weekly goal, and my weekly goal now, my daily goal is 750 calorie burn per day, and that requires me, even though my minimum movement is 30 minutes of exercise, which they say at my age, 5 days a week, 30 minutes, 150 minutes of exercise. In order for me to hit that goal, I have to surpass that.
Yeah.
I started this back in Thanksgiving. I said I was going to use Thanksgiving as the marker that everybody uses it to eat. I'm going to use it to change. And so it tracks it, and I'm now, I forget, 127 consecutive days of completing all 3 targets, circles. However many days it's been since I stopped looking at it, but it's past that 90-day point of it's now inherent. Now, one day, I woke up and had a slight ache, but in 120 something days, to have one, and it was a little muscle strain in a thigh was all it was, and so I took a day off. Didn't have to be legalistic about it.
Right.
I didn't eat a quart of ice cream that day. I didn't eat a gallon of ice cream that day. I thought I would set a point, and this helps me. But the way God built our bodies was that when you stand, you actually elongate the cells in the brain. And dementia is a shortening, a shrinking of those synapses, the neurons in the brain, and standing elongates them, which is a dementia preventer, and an early onset is reversible if you do nutrition, exercise, and standing is part of that helps those stretch those back out. So so you have the action of standing, but you also have the benefit that your brain actually changes in the standing mode, which is of course the most intelligent of all designs, because if you take a look in the Bible, there weren't a lot of people that were laying down. We actually see that it was I forget, it was either Isaac or Jacob that spent some 40 years in bed thinking that he was on death's door. I think it was Isaac that spent 43 years saying, bring me some food, I'm about to die. And it was like 43 years he lay in bed. So that's about the only person I know in the Bible that wasn't up and around and working constantly and being on the move. So movement is by design. God gave us the longest bone in the body, or the legs, to keep us moving. And so this is part of God's plan for us. We've got a couple minutes left. What words of wisdom, counsel can you give to that person that's been stuck on the couch, stuck in that mindset of they were active, but they're not active now, and they're seeing this as a confinement that's breeding a sedentary lifestyle that is harmful to their well-being?
Well, first of all, they've got to forgive self and don't live in a shame moment and start beating themselves up. That just requires them to stop and go, okay, thank you that I have the awareness, even right now, hearing these words, that God loves you. And he loves you intensely, and he doesn't hold that against you. But we got to move forward from this point on and let this moment you have right now to be a quickening and a jet fuel in your life to begin to make changes. And then pick one thing out, one thing of all the things we talked about, and employ that and do it for a week, right? And then add a second one. Experience success and watch God change you from the inside out. And by all means, be encouraged. Don't be withdrawn. Be encouraged, especially now during this difficult time.
Well, I think that those are words of great counsel and great wisdom from Dr. Mark Sherwood, who, along with Dr. Michelle Sherwood, his wife, have written the best-selling book, Surviving the Garden of Eden, Surprising Biblical Insights to Enjoy Optimal Wellness. Fork your diet, stop falling for the frauds, master the 4 fundamentals of good health, and the quest for wellness, a practical and personal wellness plan for optimal health in your body, mind, emotions, and spirit. All biblically sound wisdom, biblically sound counsel, but also steeped in experience in both of their areas of medical expertise, in as a naturopath and as an osteopath, looking at wellness from a holistic basis, but through a biblical world view. You know, oftentimes we think when we hear holistic, it means New Age, and that's not accurate. That's a branding mechanism, but holistic is using all the components that God gives us to maintain a healthy lifestyle. It is His desire that we have a sound mind, that we live a full life, a healthy life, not a life steeped in sickness. So, Dr. Mark, thank you for those words of encouragement. Thank you, and give our best to Dr. Michelle. And we will see you right back here next month at the same time for the next edition of our Wellness Hour with Drs. Mark Sherwood and Dr. Michelle Sherwood. Thank you, and God bless, my friend.
God bless you.
All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the next edition of Revealing the Truth.